Alright guys, this is part 2 of the Virginity series, and this is an exclusive video just for Patreon and just for upper tiers. I'll never put this on YouTube. I will never drop below the $10 tier. This is just for you guys, the people that are supporting me the most. I appreciate what you guys are doing for me. In return, hope to give you guys exclusive content that only you can see, so that you know how much I appreciate you. So let's get into the story. So where we had left off in the first video, I'm on a trip. I'm in Mexico. I'm in Cancun, and I'm with my private school. Now, very light flirtation had happened up until this point. You know, I was joking with this girl, Cindy. That's not her real name, but that's what we'll call her for the sake of the story. And the night before, we had gotten drunk at this nightclub, Carlos and Charlie's. And I went up to this little paisa. I had him give her a rose for me. And I said, hey, tell her that I think she's beautiful. She looked back at me. She blushed. She was drunk. And we walked back with the rest of my classmates. And she ripped her shirt up. You know, she yanked her shirt up and she flashed me. 18-year-old. I was 14. And, you know, it's like some shit you'd see in some rom-com, you know, risque comedy film. I couldn't believe my good fortune, and I didn't know that it was going to progress past that point. I certainly didn't tell anyone about it, and I think I mentioned it in the first part of this series. I've always been one of those guys, especially when it comes to sex. I don't kiss and tell, especially if it's a situation like that, because why would I want to ruin a good thing? You know, if I tell... Like, it was just like when I was in prison in Wisconsin and I was boning the CO. Boning? Who the fuck says that? But, you know, I was having sex with the correctional officer there. And I don't want to tell anyone, because if it got out, then that's going to end. And I've always been like that, and it's been a good way to go. You know, rarely does stuff like this come back to fuck me. No pun intended. But anyway, so I get a call. She calls, I'm staying in a hotel room with my other 8th grade classmates, and she calls the phone, and they go, hey, Cindy's calling. They think I'm in trouble for drinking the night before. They know I never told them about the flashing thing. I get on the phone with her, and she goes, hey, can you come up to my room and help me put tanning lotion on, sunblock? I was like, yeah, definitely. My heart just starts thudding. I mean, you know, at this point, I believe I'd gotten a blowjob, and I definitely fingered a couple girls. We can get into that in a second. We'll kind of loop back. But I'd never had sex, and I didn't know if that's what was going to happen, but I just instantly got like a stage fright sensation where I had fluttering butterflies, and I was really nervous, you know? I go up to her room. She opens the door with a towel wrapped around her. Her hair is still wet. You know, it has the wet thickness to it. She looks beautiful. No makeup. She's just a naturally beautiful woman. You know, very voluptuous. I get in there, and she just smiles at me as she brings me into her hotel room. As we get in, she shuts the door, and she just drops the towel. And she's naked. She's just standing there naked. Now, I'm wearing board shorts, and I'm wearing like a no effects bucket hat. I think I have pictures of her and this that I'll try to find for you guys, but you know, I had braces at the time. I looked like a dork. And here's this, to me, it looks like a fucking playmate, you know? This girl with huge tits, perfect body. You know, even now, this would be like a very high quality woman. You know, my standards are different now than they were then, but she tells me, you know, you're going to high school next year, and social currency is based on sexual experience. I think you're a really cool kid. She's telling me this butt naked. I'm just sitting there with my bucket hat on, like my braces sticking out, and I want to fuck you, so that by the time you get to high school, you're going to be even cooler, and you're going to have that stock in social currency. I couldn't believe it. I'm literally, you know, if my heart was beating fast before, now it's pulsating out of my shirt. She just comes up to me. I remember the way that she smelled, you know, some sort of fragrant lotion, probably Victoria's Secret or something. She comes up to me and she touches my shoulders and she just pushes me onto the bed. Starts taking down my board shorts and she gives me head. Gets me hard. Now, listen, you guys are VIP. I don't really have a deformed cock. It's not really that small. It's not that big, but it's about average. And, you know, girls are always like, well, it's not huge, but it's cute. And that's never a good sign. You know, that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear, gee, that shit is humongous. Just looking at it makes me wet. That's what you want to hear. But, you know, and girls tend to say it. And then the only girl that I've ever been with that's complained about my dick is the one that I'm married to now. If we're fighting, she's like, you have a small cock. I'm like, I have to call some support line. But the point of the story is that, you know, it's whatever. It's an average sized penis. And I'm laying down, gives me the head, gets me hard. And she just sits on me, does the sumo style squat, and rides me. And I'm just laying there. And she's like touching my chest and like, you know, I'm thinking it's going to be like American Pie and I'm going to come in like 10 seconds. But that just wasn't the case. We got a good rhythm. We got a good flow. I probably lasted about 12 minutes, you know, 12, 15 minutes. Pretty impressive for the first time, I think, you know, in retrospect. I've had way more embarrassing situations in high school, depending on what drugs I was on, you know. I stuck it in and, you know, premature ejaculated. And I haven't done that for a long, long time, but it has happened to me. It used to happen to me in high school here and there. She rides me, and she's being very loud. And, like, you know, I'm 14 years old. I'm insecure. I am holding my breath, almost losing oxygen, turning colors, because I'm so self-conscious about making a noise that might be considered lame. And I think that's pretty common. I mean, this isn't stuff that I discuss explicitly with people that I know. But I remember in the early years of my sexual development, shall we say, I was pretty self-conscious about the noises that I made. Now I'm ridiculous. You know, now it's like obnoxious. I'm like, oh, yeah, like caveman grunts and shit. It doesn't even matter where I am. Anyhow, so I remember I had to come. Now, I don't know the etiquette to that. You know, how's that? Nowadays, I'm just like, yo, I got a nut, what's up? Then usually they come off, you know, they get off of me or whatever. But it's just like, it's cool, do it inside of me. I'm on birth control. Just bouncing. I'm watching these, you know, boobs. She's 18. Gravity hasn't gotten her yet. It was like a really, like, blissful, pornographic moment. She was beautiful. So I come inside of her, and I remember that feeling. I mean, it was, I don't know, it was like some triumphant moment in my life, you know, like a highlight reel. Like, if they're going to do a slideshow of my life, you know, you see me, like, grab a diploma, even though I didn't graduate high school, but grabbing a diploma, you know, there's, like, a picture, got Johnny Depp around me, highlight, you know, me seeing my son Nico for the first time, me getting married to Karina, and then a picture of my flaccid cock with a little bit of cum coming out of it. That was just, you know, that was the first time I got laid. I mean, I wanted to get on top of a mountain and scream it to everybody. I just fucked her, you know, like an anchor man. But I didn't. I didn't tell anybody. And I remember rolling over. I wasn't a smoker yet. I wasn't smoking cigarettes every day. You know, like I am now. Excuse me. Phlegm just comes up. Ugh, sorry. So I wasn't, you know, my wind was still intact because I was 14 years old. And she rolled off of me, and she's just grinning. And she's like, how was I? And I swear to God, I give her the liar, liar. I'm like, I've had better. And she's just like, shut up. She elbows me. She's like, I hooked you the fuck up. You're going to remember me the rest of your life. I'm laying there, and she's like, kind of just spreading her arms out, and all of a sudden, knock on the door. Freaking out about it. She's like, oh my God. I'm like, who could it be? She's like, I don't know. It's probably one of the teachers. I'm like, what the fuck? She's like, get in the closet. I'm like, oh my God. So, I'm butt naked. And of course, I'm all like embarrassed. I cover my, well, now my dick is back to root beer barrel size. I'm a grower, not a shower, as they say. So I'm like holding my little dick and I'm just hurried to the closet. Now I'm hiding in the closet. I have no idea who it is. And I hear my math teacher. This guy is like fuck, I forget what his name, Mr. Louis or something, Mr. Huey, I don't remember what his name was, something like that. And I hear him talking to her. Now I'm in the closet, and it's one of those closets where, there's little slits going through it, so you can kind of like see you can look through these little splinters of space, and you can see what's going on. But I could also hear his voice, so I'm watching him, and she has a towel around her, just like she opened the door when I originally had come to the room. And she's talking to him, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna go, because we're going jet skiing, in like an hour from that point. He's like, yeah, we're just trying to configure what's gonna go on for the day. Wow. He just stops mid-sentence. Wow. You look stunning right now. Now, this guy's like 37. This is an 18-year-old girl. Now, she did just commit statutory rape on me, so, I mean, I'm kind of calling the kettle black here. But this guy's hitting on her. This is like the English teacher's daughter. Full-blown, you look stunning. And, she's flirting back. I'm just like, what a slut. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, God, she's fucked me, and now she's flirting with this dude. And that was a life lesson for me. I mean, let me tell you, a lot of women are like that. And he's like, hey, TV's not working in my room. Do you care if I just lounge in here for a little bit, watch TV? And she's kind of being flirtatious. She's like, no, come on, I'm not even dressed. He's like, oh, honestly, I don't even mind. I'm like, Jesus Christ. She's a senior in high school, dude. You're a fucking junior high math teacher. What is going on here? What world am I living in? Eventually, she gets him to leave. But he was trying to come in. He was trying to hit that. I mean, I don't blame him. I just did the same thing. And I'm sure any of you remember the first time you get laid. There's this radiating glow. I mean, you are just permagrin after that. I was all smiles. I'm just walking around. I'm like, with confidence. I got dressed, go back, and, I felt a few inches taller from that point. I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't tell any of my classmates, and we didn't do it again. I think we went home like a couple days later, and I did make out with her on the airplane going home. We were in the very, very last row, of the airplane, and nobody was sitting anywhere close to us. And what I did is I just said that I didn't feel well. It's like, I think I'm getting nauseous. I'm going to go sit in the back of the plane, just so I could go sit next to her. And I was kind of whispering stuff in her ear, telling her how pretty she was. And we ended up making out, and I got to touch her boob. And that was it. That was the last time that I ever did anything with her. And what she said about sexual currency is true, because it gave me an air of confidence that I think played a big part of who I would ultimately become. When by the time I got to high school, and I touched on this in juvenile delinquency, but I'll do a little recap here, because I'm going to go into what happened right before I went to high school to, give you guys a full story. So what had happened is I graduated that private school. It's called Marymount. I graduated in the year 2000. And graduation ceremony there was comparable to like a high school graduation. That's what it looked like. Formal gowns, speeches, whole 9 yards. And I'm really happy that that happened, because I never got to go to senior prom. I never got to give my mom all the little Hallmark, moments that parents are proud of, especially mothers. And that's one of my bigger regrets in life. But I'm glad that I got to graduate from that prestigious school. And I decided I wanted to go to public school. I had the option to go to private school, but I wanted to go to public school again. I'd done elementary school and public school, and then my dad started making more money in the mid-90s, and he could afford to put me in private school, so I did that for a few years, and now I'm going back to public school. I was really into skateboarding when I was a teenager. really since I was, I don't know, 5 years old. I think my parents got me like a little Santa Cruz complete when I was like 5. And my dad used to take me to the skate park. I'd have a bowl cut and learn how to drop in on the half pipe. And then I got okay at street skating. You know, I could like kick flip 6 sets when I was like 13, stuff like that. You know, I was really good at nollie and switch, and I was always a pretty decent skater. And we would go skate at Santa Barbara Community College. They had like a manual pad, which is like a concrete slab that you can do if you don't skateboard. It's like, you know, like a wheelie type of thing where you're just balancing over, you know, you like do a kick flip and a nose manual, so you're like doing a wheelie on your nose. And we'd skate this little, you know, it's like this high. Everyone would meet there. There were some handrails. I was always into handrails and stuff when I was growing up. And we're skating, and there's this older group of kids. Now, I had dated a girl, I don't want to say her name again, let's just call her Chrissy. I had dated this girl named Chrissy, and she was a year older than me. Started dating her when I was in 7th grade, and she was in 8th grade. And we had an on and off relationship. She was a year older than me, and again, that was another social currency, something that catapulted my social currency. It was really unheard of at that time period to date an older girl. That never happened, you know. Sometimes guys dated younger women, but when it was opposite, it was a big deal back then. And she went to like a public junior high. And I remember, you know, typical junior high relationship, made out, feel her up, go see movies, try to do more, and she'd be like, no, you don't even love me. I'm like, okay. Hey, you want to give me oral? She's like, what is this, a fucking deposition? Who says give me oral? No, I won't suck your dick. I'm just like, okay. Put my arm around her. I love you. So it was on and again, off again. We spent a lot of time talking on the phone. I'd call her every night. We'd have long conversations. Believe it or not, I'm one of those guys that spends hours and hours and hours on the phone every day. You know, I have to be talking. Someone has to be listening to me, or I have to be listening to somebody. It's just one of my weird things every day. Hours and hours on the phone, and I've always been like that. So me and her would talk, and she lived, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 blocks from my parents' house, maybe a little further than that. And I remember we were talking, it was right before Thanksgiving. And, you know, I'm like, you know, what was her name? What was I calling her? Chrissy. You know, Chrissy, you know, we've been going steady now for about 4 or 5 months. This was on again, off again, but at this particular time, we'd been together for the longest in a row. You know, Chrissy, we've been going steady for 4 or 5 months, and, you know, I'm just not happy with my placement on the field, you know? Been on first base for months. I think it's time to take it to the next level. And she's like, what are you thinking? I'm like, listen, I want more, but I'll settle for finger banging. Fine, but it has to be today. I'm so stoked, right? I mean, I remember like just dousing myself in Tommy Hilfiger cologne and putting on my nicest shirt, which was like, I don't know, Abercrombie and Fitch, like sweater or something, and khaki pants, and my skater shoes, and you know, I always wore skater stuff, but I had that just in case a finger banging might be on the horizon, and here it was. So I remember I bombed the hill on my skateboard. I go down these big hill down to her house. The whole time I'm listening to music. I think it was like a Discman. It's like skipping and listening to like No Effects. I listened to a lot of punk back then. And I get to her house. Her parents aren't home, and she's like, "Wait, I have Bath and Body Works candles. Finger me to that." And I'm like, "Cool, yeah." I'm acting all slick, and you know, she's like, "Jesus, you're wearing a lot of cologne." I'm like, "I'm nervous." She's like, "I get it. Me too. This is gonna be crazy." And I'm just like, okay. So I end up going into her room. She's got the Blink-182 posters on her wall, and she has a skirt on with no panties. So we start making out, and she took off my pants. No, my hand starts kind of going down, surveying the area down there. And I go down and I touch her pubes, her mound of hair. Now, I'd watched porn, and I know this sounds very odd, but I thought the vagina was where the pubic mound was. I thought that there was like a hole like somewhere in that hair. I didn't realize that it was like under. So I'm like, let's just say that this is the mound. I like go down and I start tapping it. And I'm like biting her ear. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, finger banging you? And she's like, that's not what my vagina is. And I'm like, really? So she moves my hand down, and I remember this. Now, this is the first time that I'd ever, for lack of better words, touched a pussy. And I remember the way that it felt. I mean, I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was warm, very warm for a body part. And I remember I started touching, and it was very gummy, and it got wet. Almost like, what are those things? Like, not sea urchins, but, you know, you like, are they sea urchins? You press them and it like closes in on you and starts like pulsating a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. It's at the beach. Felt like that. I remember like just curling my fingers in, and like, again, I didn't know that I had to like make a movement or rub a clit. I didn't know anything about that. I was 14. I didn't think about shit like that. You know, if I wanted to masturbate back then, I'd get on, you know, my dial-up modem. You know, it'd be like the triptych. You've got mail. I'd be like, butthole shots. And then it would like take forever to, and you know, like 20 seconds, 40 seconds. And I'd like get it real quick, and that was the shit. I mean, that's how I grew up. But I didn't really know how it all worked. I didn't know how the anatomy worked. I just didn't really like understand. So I touched it a little bit, and then she's like, okay, I'm done. You happy? You finger fucked me. And I'm just like, you know, trying to play it cool. I'm like, love you, baby. She's like, I love you too. I remember I left, and it was right before Thanksgiving. I remember that because I had to fly up to Northern California to do Thanksgiving with my extended family. And what I did is I didn't wash my hand. You know, I could smell her vagina, and I thought I was so cool. I didn't tell anyone, but I thought I was cool. And I remember getting on the airplane and real weirdo shit, but I can remember this very clearly. I'm smelling my finger, and like if someone's looking at me, I almost am like doing it so that they'll see me doing it and be like, that guy probably fingered a chick. You know, I thought that like once I fingered her that I was in some like international like finger club, like Fight Club or something. Or, like, you know, I sniff my fingers and like someone just gives me like the nod, you know, Fight Club nod. I really thought that way when I was that age. And so, you know, then I dated another girl, and she was a little more promiscuous, and I'm pretty sure I got a blowjob before the Cindy incident in Mexico. But following that, now we get into the skateboard situation. So, this girl Cindy, or the girl Chrissy, these are fake names, they're hard to remember. This girl Chrissy had cheated on me at my buddy's Halloween party with this guy named Jesse Olsen. I guess he was like a popular high school kid. He was like a sophomore, and when, you know, he hooked up with her, probably fingered her, you know, at this Halloween party. He was like a sophomore, and she was in ninth grade. I think when I fingered her, she was already a freshman, and I was in 8th grade, something like that. And I knew she cheated on me. It got to me, you know, got back to me, and I broke up with her. You know, I've never tolerated like cheating when it's provable. You know, if I have suspicion, it's whatever, but like when I actually know, confirm that it's true, that's over. You know, I'm not a sucker. I just won't do it. So, back to the skateboarding. I rarely do that, like circle around like that in a story, but, you know, I forgot about some of this stuff. So, I'm at this place skateboarding at the community college, like I was just talking about, and a group of high school kids comes up, and like, you know, they were cool. When you're 14 years old and you see kids that are a little older than you, you want to mimic and emulate and copy everything that they're doing. I remember they were wearing like white shirts and jeans, and like they, you know, would cuff their jeans, And I remember how cool it looked like on the skater shoes. And so I started mimicking that, you know? I wanted to do that too. And like I said, I was okay at skateboarding. I was above average. And so that would always make me connect with whoever I was skating with. Now, these kids were really good at skating. And I'd always been a name dropper, as I'm sure you know to this day. Like, if I hang out with famous people, I'm always like, I'm friends with this guy. Look at me. And it's a bad habit. I wish I didn't do it. I think I'm doing it less and less. But I was like that back then, too. But the only name that I knew to drop was Jesse Olsen, the guy that cheated on me with that girl Chrissy at the Halloween party. So I started telling these guys about that. And I talked about this in juvenile delinquency, but I'm like talking shit about Jesse, and they're all just kind of laughing, looking at me. We skate all day. Everybody leaves except for me and one guy. And he's like, hey man, can I buy you a milkshake across the street? There's this little like snack shack type thing by the beach. So we go over to it, and he's like, hey, where do you live? And I was telling him where I live. Like, my parents live, you know, in the Santa Barbara Riviera area. And he's like, man, I live right by there. My parents live by the Natural History Museum. And he's like, giving me his phone number. He's like, yeah, call me. And like back then, I think it was like, he gave me his landline number or whatever. It's in like 2000s, before everybody had cell phones. And I was like, man, I never even got your name. He's like, it's Jesse Olsen. And he just gives me this like, you know, little grin. I was so embarrassed. I was like, no way. He's like, yeah, I'm Jesse. And I'm really sorry I didn't know she had a boyfriend. And it's all good, bro. He's like, you're a funny little kid, good at skating. Let's hang out. So Jesse and I became best friends that summer. And he was on probation for vandalism, so he couldn't do like conventional drugs. But we got into quercetin, and we were drinking quite a bit. And one night, this was probably now a month. And now, he's the only person that I told about what had happened in Mexico. I said, hey, when I was in Mexico on a school trip, I had sex with one of the chaperones. She was 18. He's like, you're so full of shit. He was a virgin at that point. You know, he was a sophomore too, and he's a good-looking guy. Like, girls loved this guy, but he was shy. You know, he wasn't outgoing. He didn't believe me that I had sex with a chaperone because he knew who she was. He was older than me. I mean, this girl had like a reputation because she was a pretty older girl. Anyway, he never believed me about that. And one night we go to the beach, and it's me, him, and we're with a pro skater that's probably like our age. You know, there are a lot of pro skaters in Santa Barbara. Huge skateboarding scene. A lot of the bigger companies were there. Powell's there, Shorty's. So we grew up like around a lot of professional skateboarders. And we were with one that night. He was our age. And we were with these two, you know, girls. I don't know. I don't even know how we knew them. They were my age. They were like 14. Jesse was 16. I was 14. And the pro skater was like 15 or 16. We're all pretty much the same age. And we had, what we would do back then to get beer, we would just wear like a big backpack into the grocery store. And we get a 30-pack. We just put it in the backpack and just walk out. You know, we do beer runs like that, or we do bottle walks. We did that when we were 17 a lot. I mean, like all the time. We'd go into a pharmacy. It's before they put the sensor things on, you know, like on the nozzle or whatever. And we would just get a bottle of hard liquor and we would just walk out. We called it bottle walks, or B-dubs is what we had, a term we had coined. And this particular night we had like, I don't know, like a 30-pack of Natty Light, something like that. And I remember one of the girls just got completely drunk. Let's just call her Sharon. Sounds like the actual girl, but it's not what her name was, but it's very close to that. This girl Sharon, you know, is getting white girl wasted. She's had like 3 or 4 beers, and she's just like, I am just so fucking wasted. Oh my God, I just want to suck someone's cock. And she's really saying stuff like this, not just saying that. And she goes to me and the pro skater, and she's like, listen, I'll have a contest. If you guys whip your dicks out, I'll suck whoever's bigger. Now, like I said, I mean, you know, I'm average, whatever. Not small, not big, just right in the middle. I'm like, fuck it, whatever. I've always been one of those guys like, okay, you tell me to take my pants off, I'm going first. What's up? Call your bluff. And so I take my pants off, and this other guy's just, the pro skater's like, oh my God, like he's all uncomfortable. He's like, And he just leaves. So by default, I'm just standing there on the beach with my boxers and pants around my ankles. So Sharon gets down on her knees and gives me one of the worst blowjobs I've ever gotten in my life. Teeth hurt, cringing, grimacing. Jesus Christ, that hurts. You know, I mean, it's okay to be a little rough, but this was just a sloppy technique. I don't think she had perfected it yet. I sound like such a misogynistic piece of shit right now, but I mean, whatever. I'm saying what you're thinking. So, you know, she gives me this horrible head, and I'm like, hey, let's go to the cemetery. We're at this beach called Hammonds, and Hammonds is like a private beach in Montecito, which is like a very wealthy part of Santa Barbara. It's where Oprah Winfrey lives. It's just very beautiful, very close to the Pacific Ocean. So we'd go to this private beach called Hammonds, and there was like a bunch of condo complexes that had beach access right above it, and there was a private cemetery. Some weird random little, like, maybe there's like, you know, 15, 16 tombstones just in this like ivy area in between the condos and the beach. And I'd taken girls there before, like, you know, my big line in high school and in junior high is like we'd be partying there because we had bonfires and we drink a lot down there. And I'd just go up to a girl and be like, hey, do you want to go on a walk with me? And my whole theory with that was like, if a girl's willing to go on a walk with you, she'll probably hook up with you. And it was true. I mean, it was all about getting them away from the party. So I asked Sharon to come with me to the cemetery. We get there and we start kissing, and I'm like, hey, can I fuck you? And she's like, I don't know. I was like, why? She's like, I don't know, I just want like the first time to be with someone I love. And I'm like, well, the chances that are going to happen are pretty small. And she's like, kind of looking at me. I was like, come on, we're already here. We're both drunk. Let's just do it. We're about to start. She's going to start high school that fall as well. Why don't we just do it? We're both here already. She kind of thinks about it for a second, you know, silently. She's like, you can fuck me in the ass if you want. I don't think love has to be involved for that. I'm like, I've never even considered that. I mean, that's like, Jesus. It's like, you know, that's really up in the ante quite a bit. It's like, you know, all right, I call. Fuck it, let's go. Now, I didn't know anything about anal. I didn't even know where a vagina was located. I thought it was where the pubic mound was. Anal's like fucking geometry compared to that. So, like, I didn't know you needed lube to, like, get it in, whatever. You know, in very desperate situations, I guess spit will suffice, but I didn't know any of that. So she bends over. She bends over at like a tombstone. She's like holding on to it, and she has this skirt, and she just hikes it up. And now I know where my dick has to go. I know that much. This is a little like, it's pretty easy to figure out, especially from the angle that I'm at. I'm just like trying to get it in there, and you know, anal is one of those things where it's always a little, you have to be like anatomically compatible for it to be easy. You know, sometimes you have to like be on like weird angles and kind of like poke down in there. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to figure out like, you know, logistically how to do this. And it just looked ridiculous. Like, you know, I'm like, don't have pants on, but I have a shirt on and I'm wearing like black socks. And she like has her skirt hiked up, and I'm like over her. I'm finally get it in there. So I like have one leg up. I literally look like a dog. And I'm just like, you know, slow. So she's like, ow, ow. I'm like, all right, is that better? I'm going slow. I'm probably doing it for like 30, 40 seconds. And Jesse Olsen comes up and he's like, dude, what the fuck? It's like, what are you doing? He's like, are you fucking her in the ass? And she just looks over and she's like, oh, this is so embarrassing. And we're busted. And so she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Oh, so Jesse comes and cocks block. I'm just like, God, Jesus, Jesse. So, you know, that was the end of that night. This is back on AOL Instant Messenger, and, you know, days. And I think you could do like a mass text message. It might have been on AOL, like a mass email. Somehow, somebody, not me or Jesse, put that out there on like some huge, like, you know, email blast or text message blast. So they sent it to like pretty much everyone from my junior high, everyone from her public junior high, and everyone that was connected to the high school in this little like network of people. And someone had said that Ryan Leone had fucked Sharon in the ass at the beach, and that Jesse had walked up to them and caught them, and like how disgusting it was. I think it was written by a girl, I want to say. Like somehow this had gotten back to them. And I mean, this was not like whoever wrote it was like saying how disgusting this was, that we were doing this at 14 years old. Like we were just completely like debaucherous, you know. Smoke crack, do what we want, fuck in the ass, you know, just out of control teenagers. And so now everybody knows about this. And, you know, it's like what Cindy had told me about sexual experience being social currency, that's very true. But, you know, I mean, so what is anal? That's like owning acres of land equity or something. It was like what that did for my sex life in high school. I don't know. It's I can't even measure what that did. But I got to high school with the reputation as someone that had not only had sex already, someone that had butt fucked somebody. I mean, that's like really hardcore for that age. I'm 34, and sometimes like I'll be like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I could put in your ass or something. I have never done that, and I will never do that. Or the good one, I don't really like that, honestly. Like the novelty of it is as like Karina and I very rarely do that. You know, it has to be like we have to be like rolling, or you know, we used to when we were drunk a lot. But I don't know. It's like I like the vagina more. But you know, sometimes girls will be like, "Oh my God, you want to fuck me in the ass? You've been to prison? You must be a queer." That's a really common one. So it's like I don't even ask anymore. It's not really the kind of thing you ask on a first date anyway. I mean, there's the hardcores out there, and you know, as always, respect for those of you that have fucked a chick in the ass on the first date, or for you rock star chicks that have gotten fucked in the ass on the first date. I mean, that's usually not going to build some sort of healthy relationship, but respect for the open-mindedness and for the hedonism. That's just the hedonism of that entire act of anal sex. But I think we'll keep going on this series, talk more about my sex life. Not something I really like talking about publicly too much, but this is for, you know, the upper tiers. There's not as many of you that are actually watching this. So I just feel like I owe you guys. Appreciate you. I love you. Palabra.